And the paramedics came over and I checked my arm to see if there was any break. It was just bad bruising. So one of the paramedics are looking after me, Rod, just happens to walk round, stick his head in the door and he's gone, "Oh, what's the idiot done now?"
Viikonloppusoturit. Iron Maiden podcast.
Tervetuloa kuuntelemaan kolmatta Viikonloppusoturit-extra pläjäystä. Tämä jakso tai extra jakso täydentää nyt sitten tässä syksyn mittaan julkaistujen Beast Feast -fanitapahtumassa äänitettyjen haastatteluiden sarjan, eli aikaisemmin vieraina on ollut Chris Daly ja Dennis Stratton, nyt tässä kolmannessa extrassa sitten bändin vanha roudari Loopy Newhouse, joka muistelee värikkääseen tapaansa bändin varhasta historiaa ja hänen seikkailujaan siellä rock'n'rollin kummallisessa, antoisassa, hullussa ja toisinaan aika armottomassakin maailmassa. Miehen nyt suomeksikin julkaistu roudarikirja on toki myös erinomainen tämmöinen nippelitasolle todellakin niin kuin syventyvä muistelma tuosta 70-80-luvun taitteen rock-skenestä. Myös muiden bändin kuin Maidenin toilailuja siellä seurataan. Kannattaa lukaista tai ottaa äänikirjana kuunteluun tuo Roudari-niminen kirja. Mutta pidemmittä puheitta mennään nyt sitten viimeistä kertaa tuonne heinäkuisen Korson hikiseen tunnelmaan ja sinne Karhun luolaan Rock Bar Bearin syvyyksiin ja päästetään ääneen Loopy Newhouse.
Viikonloppusoturit.
Looking back to the late 70s when you first started working with Maiden, was there a specific moment when you realized that this band is going to make it?
Yeah, it took a little while, but gradually getting out there and doing shows, because we had rehearsed for months and months and months. Rehearsals just went on and on, and it was Neil Kay at the Soundhouse. Once we gave him the tape, and he played the tape, and he phoned me up, and he thought I was Steve Harris. So Neil phoned me, and he's raving, "Got to get you guys down here, you got to come and play." And I've gone, "You're talking to the wrong Steve. I'll go and get the real Steve, and you talk to him." And he went, yeah, but I want you guys to play here Saturday. So I went round to Steve's house, and I explained exactly what had happened on the phone, and Steve was just walking around in circles going, "Oh shit, oh shit." And that was supposed to be the first gig, and that was around about March. But I don't think we actually went out and played live until maybe the end of that month. We weren't quite ready to do the Neil Kay thing, but we did a couple of smaller things. Like one at the Bridge House was the very first gig, and then again at the Ruskin a few days later. But the people that turned up at the Ruskin, it was just crazy. And of course Neil at the time is still playing the cassette and building up an audience, and all of a sudden we're going to each of these shows and getting huge crowds. Then you start to realise, okay, something's happening here.
So Neil Kay basically.
This was all East London.
Yeah.
All in East London.
That was the last drop in the glass.
Yeah, I mean, we were going out of London and doing shows in Wales. Where you get two men and a dog. It was just crazy. And you get back to London, you couldn't wait to get back to London to play a big crowd again. But you could see it month by month, bigger and bigger and bigger.
What do you think was the reason or the X factor or the thing that really made the difference between Iron Maiden and compared to other bands of the same era and same?
The following, it was the fans.
Yeah.
I mean, to give you a rough example, I think this has been mentioned in Bruce's book, and I also mention it in my book. We played at the Music Machine. Again, it was all sponsored and organised by Neil Kay. We were second on the bill. First band on was Angel Witch. Went down well. There was a lot of our fans there. Then we went on. The place was half full. By the time we left and Samson came on, so with Bruce Dickinson singing, all the Maiden fans had gone, and there was probably 50 people left.
Yeah.
And it's little moments like that you go, yeah.
There's something.
It's special. There is something special,
I don't think many people realize how many lineup changes Maiden did have in those very early years. It was almost like a rotating door at some point in the band. People were coming and going. Were there any people that you were upset that they had to leave, that you thought that they made a wrong decision? And on the other side, were there anybody who you thought that, okay, this was probably best for everybody?
Probably meant to be, yeah. It's funny you say that now. I spoke to Steve. I actually asked him the question, like, how many different band members have you had to this stage? Now, this is when there was Paul Di'Anno, Doug Sampson, Dave Murray, and Steve, 4-piece. And I said to him, how many members of this band had up to now? And he said 16. And that just gives you an idea. Steve knew what he wanted, and if that person didn't work, as you said, it was a revolving door. So getting to the part where, obviously when Dennis left, I was absolutely devastated. But you kind of saw that it was coming, because Dennis had his own music tastes. And when someone turns around and says, oh, you can't listen to that, well, why not? I was listening to Rush, that's not heavy metal. With Doug Sampson, Doug always had colds. And again, I didn't see that coming, but Doug decided that it just wasn't for him. You know, he could see that the band were going that next step. I think the band were actually close to signing with EMI when Doug made the decision to move along.
But back in the really early days, were there anybody that hasn't got the credit they deserve, or
Paul Cairns.
Yeah, sure.
Without a doubt.
With the Soundhouse tapes.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to the Soundhouse tapes through headphones, especially, you can hear there are two distinctive different sounds. Dave, you know straight away. That's still the sound he's got now. And also like the fast riffs. Because Paul Cairns was, I'm going to say it because this is what I believe, but a very poor version of Dave Gilmour.
Sure.
You know, he won't hear this, it don't matter. But that's what I think is, you know, Paul's guitar, his solo, I can't remember which song it was, but his solo, to me, it just sounds really poor. And to be perfectly honest, it was Dave that sort of carried both guitar sounds.
You can't play heavy metal with synthesizers.
We have here your book that's now being published in Finnish also. I think it's been translated to Italian at least.
Yes, the Italian version has been out for about a month.
Yeah. Is there any other?
Yeah, Germany comes out on October 28th. And of course there's the UK version as well.
It's based on your diaries from back to those days you were with Maiden and other bands also. Is there anything you decided not to add, like self-censor yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. There's an old saying, you know, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Sure.
And I left it in Vegas. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, there's one big subject that is not included in the book, and it's the third one, from sex, drugs and rock and roll. Actually, the first one.
And the second. No, there's no mention of that because I just can't say anything about it. It's as simple as that.
But let me try this same question from another angle.
If out of the three.
Compared to many big rock or heavy bands in the 80s, Iron Maiden seemed to avoid the biggest scandals and had pretty, I'm not saying family friendly, but pretty clean reputation in the media and overall when it comes to partying and all that stuff. You've seen, of course, touring with Maiden. You've seen other rock bands, big rock bands too. How would you compare Maiden to them? Were they more civilized, or was it just something that really never came to public's
Look, I mean,
eye?
I'm not going to lie about it. Yes, everybody has a limit. With some of the other bands, people go over that limit.
Yeah.
Whereas Maiden knew theirs. They knew their limits.
Yeah.
Yes, we all went out and had fun. We always had a good time. But not to the point of destruction. You know, like people getting a gram of cocaine and going really stupid with it. It just never happened. The crew maybe, but that's not in the story. That's not the book. It's not what it's about. You know, the book is about my journey and what I saw.
But did Steve Harris or Rod Smallwood or both had like? Did the band have, in your opinion, did they have like a non-written agreement that how far can you go, that you have to keep the professional level?
Yes, I mean, Steve, he totally believed in that professional level.
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to the old story, you know, it's Steve's band, he is the driving force. But of course, yeah. You know, if anybody had a problem, they wouldn't go to Rod and ask him, they'd go and ask Steve.
Yeah.
You know, because, Mother Hen. Steve was Mother Hen. But, I mean, obviously, if there was something he wasn't sure about, he'd go and talk it over with Rod. There's no doubt about that.
So can you tell me a little bit how was it working in the music industry as a crew member back in the 80s?
Before I went back to Maiden in 1983, because Clive had gone and they brought in Nico.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a problem with any other member of the band, it was just Clive. So I get a phone call to go back and I pick up the tour. They were going out to Europe, 1983. It's great, I went along and did that. But before I did that, I was with a company called Stage Miracles, a London-based stage crew. Who were still going, bless them. And the first job, well, not the first job, but the third job I ever did for Stage Miracles was spending 2 weeks in a field in Oxford. It's a place called Blenheim Palace.
Yeah.
And we built a stage and set up basically like an arena for Barry Manilow. This is true.
It must have been a big stage.
It was pretty big. It was pretty big. He's going to carry his nose. But and that was like one of the biggest jobs I'd done up to that point. And then I did quite a few other bits and pieces. Got the phone call, went back to Maiden. And then when I finished back with Maiden, when I finished again back in it was July '84, I came back to England and I'd already been in touch with the guys at Stage Miracles. Yeah, of course you can come back. Yeah, we've got plenty of work. And I stayed with them until 1995. So another stretch of 11 years. I was with them for about 12, 13 years in total. And we did everything. You name it, we did it. Literally from AC/DC to ZZ Top, we did it, including Frank Sinatra. You know, I mean, it wasn't just concerts. It was opera. We did car shows. We did corporate
events.
Thank you. It's an English word.
Viikonloppusoturit.
Looking back to your time with Maiden now, what is the single best and the single worst or weirdest memory you have working with them?
The worst always comes to mind when we were in France, South France, and the band had just finished doing a sound check. Now the guitar guy that was looking after Adrian had gone off. He had to go and get an amplifier fixed, so he wasn't there. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, well the guys have left the guitars on stage. Somebody normally takes them off. So I thought I'd be the hero. Now the band had literally gone down a set of stairs, same set of stairs, and I got a guitar in each hand and I tread on the top step, and the staircase just collapsed, and I came down on top of it, and I ended up with a bruise from there to there, but the two guitars were safe. So I'm laying there going, help. Anyway, so a couple of guys came over and took the guitars, helped me up.
Which year was this?
It's 1981.
Okay.
Yeah. And someone from production called the paramedics. And the paramedics came over and I checked my arm to see if there was any break. It was just bad bruising. So while the paramedics are looking after me, Rod just happens to walk round, stick his head in the door, and he's gone, oh, what's the idiot done now? That's just the way he treated me, and I don't know what I'd ever done wrong to him.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. For saving 2 guitars worth of fortune. Yeah, thanks, mate.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories in your book about your relationship with Mr. Smallwood. That wasn't the greatest one.
I've had better relationships.
And
even with enemies, I've had better relationships. No, I mean, Rod was okay. He just had this thing about just thinking that I wasn't right for the crew. I could never understand his problem.
Yeah.
If he'd at one time said, look, I don't think you're doing right because, then I would have understood. But he never said that. And Steve, I mean, God knows how many times Steve defended me.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to ask this, but you brought it now. So, when your time finally ended, was it with Maiden? It was before they left for World Slavery Tour, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, basically, it was at the end of recording of Power Slave.
In your book, you tell the story that you said something. I'm not sure. I've only read the Finnish version. I'm not sure how you say it in the original one, but something about being your slave to Nico McBrain.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I'm not going to repeat it word for word because otherwise people won't read the book.
Yeah, of course.
But basically, I said the wrong thing and realised it straight away.
But I wanted to, because when I read it, it felt kind of strange to me that one misplaced sentence could be the end of it. So do you think it was really that one thing you said, or was there something other brewing
I
up?
don't know if it was building up to that or not. I just no idea.
But you felt the mood change.
There and then, yeah.
Yeah.
But the silly thing was, that night, most nights, we were going to a place called the Waterloo Club, and it was Warren Poppy. He was Tony Wiggins' assistant, and I was Warren's assistant. That was basically my job. Warren came and found me and he said, right, we're all going down to the Waterloo, get yourself sorted. So I got myself cleaned up and we jumped in the car and went down there. And sitting at the bar was Nico, on his own. And I walked in and he said, yeah, mate, have that. And it was a shot of snaps.
Yeah. And that was
we were good.
Yeah.
But back then they were a 5-piece band. And I have a theory. In fact, I mean, all the crew members had a theory. Being a five-member band, majority wins. So if you've got 3 people that go, he's got to go, and only 2 people saying he's got to stay.
Sure.
And I know who I think the 3 people were.
Okay. But let's end on a positive note. What is your best memory you have working with Maiden?
Most of it.
Yeah.
Going to places like the Bahamas, or like finishing there and spending 2 months in Fort Lauderdale. It's just stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah, places like that. I mean, touring Europe, all over Europe, going to Japan, going to the States. It's all great memories. Love it all.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, and
thanks for having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you, and
it's been a laugh.
all the best to you,
Thank
Loopy,
you very much,
and
guys.
have a nice summer. And
thank you.
Viikonloppusoturit.